Yo, it's your boy Miles Cunningham. What's going on? Shout out to Lucario. Shout out to all the supporters. Shout out to everybody on the Bad Boy membership. I want to see more of y'all on that Bad Boy membership, man. I need to see more of y'all on that Bad Boy membership. Trying to look out for y'all fellas. Feel me? Everybody on the Bad Boy membership, everybody on the Bad Boy show, everybody on the Confidence show, everybody that picked up the expectations versus reality seminar. Feel me? And, keep your eye out for the Game Kings documentary. We still got that on the way. All right. Today, what I want to talk about real quick is recognizing and understanding patterns. Recognizing and understanding patterns. Like a big part of the game is recognizing and understanding patterns. Because there's a difference between a guy who will approach, because we tell you guys, like, if you really want to have a team of bitches, if you really want to be, have a good return on your investment and have a good rate of success, it's like you got to try to talk to like 25 bitches a day, right? You really got to put those numbers in. You really got to put those numbers in. But there's a difference between somebody who will follow those instructions and not think critically and apply anything that he's learning from his experiences from approaching 25 women a day, right? You got some guys who will just who they'll have on blinders. They just got tunnel vision, where it's like, look, as long as I holler at 25 bitches a day, I'm good. And it's like, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. The reason why you play the numbers game is so you can get used to patterns, get used to strategies that come from repeating the same situation again and again and again. You see, for example, when I drive, like if I'm driving on the highway, I'm not just looking at the car that's right in front of me. I'm looking, as long as I have a field of vision, I'm looking like as far as my eyes can see down the highway. I'm looking at what cars are braking. I'm looking at what cars are changing lanes. And I'm also doing the same thing in my rear view. I'm looking at, sometimes it's a car coming up fast or a truck coming up fast. And I know, well, let me, change lanes and let them go ahead of me. You understand? Because I'm not trying to go that fast. And if I'm looking up ahead, this car's breaking up and I already know, well, that lane is going to be stagnant. So let me switch into this lane so I can move a little bit forward or just to be safer. You understand what I'm saying? I see the patterns of the road so before I get into certain situations where I'm stuck, I'm already in the lane that I know is going to be moving. You see what I'm saying? But I've been driving on the highway for years. So these are things that I've picked up through, trial and error and just knowing and understanding patterns of driving on the highway, where I can literally predict which lane is gonna, in most cases, I can predict which lane is gonna still be freed up. I'm starting to see the construction signs on one side. So I know that these motherfuckers is gonna start merging, to the left lane. So I know that sometimes I know which cars I gotta get in front of, or if I see a U-Haul or U-Hauls always move slow. Niggas driving U-Hauls, they always moving slow for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they moving and they don't want to, have the stuff, they stuff move around in the back of the truck too much, so they have to go slow. But as soon as I see a U-Haul trying to get into the left lane, I advance so I can get in front of them. Because I know once they get into the left lane, everything is going to slow down behind them. You feel me? So it's just a matter of seeing patterns. It's a matter of noticing things, right? So as far as dealing with women, it's like if you approaching that many women, you have to start to notice patterns. You have to look at the situations. You understand? Like I remember the first time I ever read this book called The Art of Macking, written by Tariq Nasheed. He had a section in the book where he talked about noticing different levels of women. And he said you could do that by noticing what the type of shoes they wear, their nails, the way they wear their hair, the type of dress they wear, and the way they carry themselves. Right. So he was explaining how different type of women you approach in different types of ways. You see what I'm saying? And when you visualize and you can see certain things, You can see certain patterns before you actually get into the situation. It allows you to have an edge, and it allows you to be able to put yourself in certain positions to be able to advance. Just like I was talking about with driving on the highway. I see certain things happening ahead of me, and I know which lane to be in so I could continue to advance. So it's the same thing with dealing with females and approaching and trying to get your numbers up. Don't just approach women to get your numbers up. Think about what happens when you say certain things. Think about what happens when you even, or certain places that you go to. Like, think about how the conversations go when you meet chicks in a bookstore, or think about how conversations go when you meet chicks at the supermarket, as opposed to when you meet chicks at the club, or as opposed to when you talking to chicks, just walking on the street. Just, you have to visualize certain things. You have to notice patterns. You have to see, okay, what do they say when I say this? How do chicks respond when I wear certain things? How do chicks respond when I speak slow? How do chicks respond when I say something funny? Like, it's about learning. It's about detecting patterns. I remember one time they were interviewing LeBron James, and he was talking about how he's able to slow the game down. And when he slowed the game down, he can make the best choices. He can make the right pass, make the right move. You understand? And then figure out the best thing to do to help his team win. And all that's about is knowing patterns, knowing how people react to certain things, and realizing that, well, if I do this, then 9 times out of 10, this is going to happen. If I do that, then 9 times out of 10, that is going to happen. So don't just do shit blindly, right? You have to really like, this is why we talk about a numbers game. This is why we talk about approaching so many women a day, or so many women, within a certain amount of time, because you want to get past the point where you're still trying to figure out what to say, and then to the point where you're saying whatever it is you say, and then you're trying to predict what the bitch is going to say back to you before you even finish the conversation. And when you kind of have an idea, or a higher probability of knowing what she's going to say when you say what you say, then that's when you can have control over the conversation. That's when you can have control over the interaction to get her to where you want to get her to. You understand? Or at least get the message across of what you're trying to get her to. Let her understand where you're going with it. You understand? Let her understand your intentions and what you're really trying to do. But this only comes after you get comfortable with the actual approach. You understand? Because what happens is when you have no experience, long-term experience in the approach, you're too worried about what you're going to say. You're too worried about, oh my God, is she going to reject me? Does she think I'm cute? Does she have a boyfriend? Oh man, I don't know what's going on. Is anybody else in this spot looking at me? And if she rejects me, are they going to laugh at me? And all of this shit. When you're so inexperienced and green, you're still worrying about you're still worried about the dumb shit. You're still worried about all of the shit that a nigga without game has to worry about, right? But when you pass that level, when you're so used to approaching, now you can start to pay attention to the responses to the and once you're paying attention to the responses, you can start to pay attention to the patterns. And once you understand the patterns, then you can start to predict. You can begin to predict what's going to happen. You see what I'm saying? You already know what the bitch is going to say when you say this. You already know what she's going to say when you say that. So you could just say, all right, well, since I already know what she's going to say, I'm gonna flip it this way because this is what I really want her to say. You understand what I'm saying? So then you start to understand things. You start to think critically, and you start to recognize patterns, so you can make the situation happen the way you want it to happen. You understand? That is the essence of game. When you start to think critically and recognize the patterns, so you can do like LeBron James do and slow the game down. You can slow the game down. You can literally control the tempo and the pace of the conversation with the bitch and get it to go to where you want it to go. And even if it still ends up not going exactly the way you wanted it, you still were able to have a certain level of control. And that puts you in a better position for the next interaction. You see what I'm saying? So, Learn to recognize patterns. Learn to be strategic. That's the essence of game. That's the essence of game. A lot of dudes think that just because they approach 25 chicks in a day that they got game. That's not game. That's not game. Game is graduating past that level. And now you're starting to think critically, and now you're actually starting to control the situation based on the knowledge that you have, based on the experiences that you have, based on the patterns that you begin to see and notice when dealing with different kinds of females. All right. So it's your boy, Miles Cunningham. Again, shout out to everybody, man. We really appreciate you guys. Let's keep the shit going, man. You know, keep the show going so we can keep the game flowing, because every day there's another young dude that needs to hear it. You feel me? All right. So it's your boy, Miles Cunningham. Always remember, the truth is inside you. Peace.